favorite guests that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, here we go, everybody. Thank you for your patience and welcome to episode number 133 of Sports Cards Live. It is Wednesday night, March 9th, 2022. My name is Jeremy Lee. I want to thank Eddie Siegel from Investicard for joining this past Saturday while he was at the Dallas show. Also, this was really cool. Check out the interview I did with Collectibles' new president of sports, Joe Orlando, on the Collectible TV YouTube channel. He was a great guest. Check that out. Next Saturday on the show, Chris McGill, Josh Johnson from Card Ladder are going to come on to talk about Card Ladder 2.0 and everything else that these guys are so good at and love to talk about. I want to shout out channel supporter Whatnot. Check them out check out their app for 1 minute breaks. 1 minute auctions, group breaks, buy it now is hosted around the clock. Some of the best breakers in the hobby. I will be doing another live stream from that platform very soon. Stay tuned for that. I want to shout out the West Coast Sports Card Convention in Vancouver, April 8th to 10th. Check out bossashows.com and the Sport Card Expo. First Edmonton show is April 15th to 17th. Note that the Toronto show the date has been changed to June 2nd to 5th. sportcardexpo.com. The Mint Collective, March 25th to 27th in Las Vegas. I will be there. Josh Luber will be there too. And shout out to TradeSafe, your risk-free alternative for trades and buy sells from any peer-to-peer social media platform or marketplace. We've created a service, a process, and a team that makes remote dealing much safer than ever before. TradeSafeHub.com. Thank you to all subscribers, viewers, podcast listeners. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so. As always, your comments, your questions are in play, but we do have an agenda. I have questions, so I will get to as many as I can and that we have time for. Let's get to tonight's guest. He is among the most influential figures in the hobby today in his role as the Chief Visionary Officer of Fanatics Collectibles. Let's bring him out. Josh Luber, welcome back to Sports Cards Live. How are you?
I am unbelievable. I realize now that you were going to wait for me. You know, you always do your rundown in the beginning. So I figured I actually had some leeway there when showing up at 10:04, and now I showed up. So now it's 10:08. So I owe 4 minutes back to everybody. So I apologize for that.
I appreciate that. But I always want to be able to say hi to the guest before we go live. Otherwise, it's like I'm saying hi to you for the first time right now. So
this is like returning. I'm a returning guest. So like we got this down, you know, like we didn't have to have a warm-up call. We know each other. We've had, you know, it's like old hat. How many shows have you done, by the way?
Well, this is 133 of this show. We've done about 60 after hours, about 25 collectible live. So I'm over 200 now, I guess, all in all.
I mean, at this point, you know, you're hitting your Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours.
I'm getting there. You're right. I am getting there. Well, speaking about the last time you were here, you told me I looked a lot like Dr. Evil. You remember that?
the way you cut the pictures on the thing. You do all these headshots as your promo things. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you want to kick it off this time? Anything you want to throw at me this time?
Well, I don't. That's it. No, they were good.
All right. Well, listen. The last time you were on, it was July 10th of last year, and at that time, you alluded to the fact that you were working on something in the hobby that the hobby desperately needed. I believe those were your words. Something the hobby desperately needed. So, you know, we obviously know what you were hinting at now. Where do you stand on that now? What have you learned about the industry over the last 8 months? And do you still feel that what you are doing with the hobby, what you're doing in your role as the Chief Visionary Officer, is going to be bringing us something that we really need?
In July, I remember exactly where I was too when we did that. God, that was July is like lifetimes ago. We've literally launched multiple businesses since then. I left StockX in September of 20 to do two things: to create a trading card brand for culture, and to go after the primary market for all trading cards in order to change the way the trading cards are bought and sold. And interestingly, even though we obviously announced the licenses and everything with Fanatics and the acquisition of Topps in the past couple months, the launch of Zerocool, which is obviously a trading card brand for culture, the most interesting thing about that, I think, is actually the mechanism by which we're doing that, and that gets to the different way to buy and sell trading cards, which comes back to the vision that we have for Fanatics collectibles and the business, everything there. So short answer is yes, and I love that now everything is out in the open. As far as I know, we don't have any other companies we're starting that we're going to announce. And so now we get to start to put all these pieces together because they're all very, very much related. And it's all about the future of the hobby, the growth of the hobby, how we evolve this for the betterment of everyone, but how we move forward and get to a place where we can actually grow, but not get into all the problems of growth that we had in the 90s and et cetera, et cetera. But it's really about that. So I love that very, very broad and big question. And the answer is yes. And now we get to start. Like today's truly the start of it. Now that everything's out in the open, we're all there. And even for the team who's worked so hard to get to launch, and anyone who's launched anything, will tell you, it's this amazing release, and yet you finally launch it, and then you wake up the next morning, it's like, okay, now we got a business to run. Now we got, whatever to go. And that's where we're at today.
So are you invigorated by all this? Are you how do you feel right now, man?
Amazing. Well, I'm only about 2/3 of the way through my evening coffee before I start like the second half of my day. So I'm like also slowly getting there as well, as many people know that I'm a night owl. So, but yeah, it's such a blast to do this. The feedback has been amazing from Zerocool, from Veefriends launch, from the people that understand a blind Dutch auction and why it's valuable. I mean, we'll get into that stuff, but I'm biased, but I truly believe that this is like the best possible way to sell, frankly, anything that has high demand and low supply. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome to have this stuff come to fruition, and to get out there and no more secrets. Like, let's get out there and start working with everybody and grow it. So yeah. Right
on. I'm happy for you, man. It's really cool. It's nice to know that you're off and running right now. And you mentioned the response. So let's talk a little bit about the hobby's response to the announcement yesterday. And now that the blind Dutch auction has been open for bids, let's talk about that a little bit. So let's talk about the hobby's response first of all. So you said it's been very positive. Have you seen both sides of that yet, or has it been mostly positive from your perspective?
There's always haters, and some of which are just people that want to troll, and others, identify, real issues that come up, which is great, which is why you should always pay attention to all of it, even if you think that it is, just quote haters. The two most prevalent negative comments that I've heard. This is, in fairness, this is kind of like when you ask somebody like, "Hey, what's your what's your weakness?" And they're like, "I'm a perfectionist." This, preface that. But the two biggest negative comments we've heard are, by far, number one is people were upset that there's a 40 box limit for purchasing it, which there's only 800 boxes total. We were just trying to make it so it could be distributed. But the reality is like, if you want to buy more, just create a second account. Like, it's more of a logistic thing than anything else. And then secondly is we didn't turn on international shipping for this, which, I know that Gary's got a lot of fans internationally, and there's a lot of card collectors, but there's just so many logistics that go into that, tariffs and taxes and different, currency rates and all that. And, frankly, it's just one of those things that we're not there yet. We'll get there really soon. But those are the only two things. Gary's polarizing. He's got people that like him and dislike him, and that's fine. But overall, it's been really positive, and I'm really, really happy with it.
That's great, man. Well, let's talk about this then. I mean, I've seen lots of reaction to it as well. I've seen positive. I've seen negative. I want to give you an opportunity to—
Sorry, real quick. And I would, if you have other like legit negative things to address, I'd love to go and go after that. We don't have to do it now. We can do it whenever. Those are the things that are really interesting to explore, because they're the ones that open up for me, for the team, for everything else, of like how we can improve that stuff. So by all means, happy to hit that later, but sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries at all. I think one of the questions I've seen people asking is, you're launching the new brand Zerocool, a subsidiary of Fanatics Collectibles, I believe,
Yep.
and the choice to go with the first release being the Veefriends cards, which it's not really sports related. So my question is, did you have sports card collectors in mind when you designed and planned this product, or was it more directed to other collectors?
Well, I mean, both. Zerocool is specifically a non-sport brand, but the reason for even Zerocool's existence is that, one, we believe that non-sport cards there's just a massive opportunity there. We wouldn't do it if we didn't think that. But also, such a huge part of growth of the hobby is to be able to give customers what they want. I mean, I can try to convince people that are crypto fans to like sports cards, but they're way more likely to embrace trading cards if I make trading cards for the things that they like. And similarly, I've not been shy about that. I've been collecting Kim Kardashian cards. It's way more likely that Kim Kardashian fans are going to be interested in Kim Kardashian cards than trying to convince them to like basketball cards. So it's really just a logic in terms of for us growing the hobby. However, as Gary's been very vocal for a very long time that he's a sports card collector as well. So, that was intentional as one of the reasons that we chose Veefriends, given that Gary is a big sports card collector and has been, obviously very notable in the hobby as well. So those things made sense for us.
I think a lot of people are under the assumption, because the first product launch under the Zerocool brand is the Veefriends, which is done after Gary V's NFT project. I think some people believe that this is going to be like an NFT card product or card brand. Do you want to just sort of address that and talk about what the plans are?
Yeah, that's a good question. Absolutely. It is not meant to be a crypto product. This is about every other part of culture other than sports, which includes music, art, entertainment, fashion, architecture, dentistry, like everything. And which is distinct from, there have been trading card brands for entertainment before. Rittenhouse makes traditional IP cards like Star Trek and Game of Thrones. Cryptozoic make some of that stuff. This is about every aspect of culture. So you will see from us traditional IP like TV and movies. You will see things that are more like Pop Century, that have musicians and actors and fashion designers, etc. But it happens to be that in the last year, crypto and NFTs specifically have become a very important part of our culture and a very polarizing part of our culture, and something that a lot of people are talking about. So we thought, because of that, it's a very much of the now, right? It is very much relevant culture, more so right now than a lot of things. And so that's why we thought it was an interesting thing to launch with. But no, I mean, I'll tell you right off the bat, the next full release is a more traditional IP. It's much more, in the vein of a product that like a Rittenhouse or Cryptozoic might release. And then after that, we'll see which ones becomes there. By the way, no one has picked up yet, and we'll start talking about it more. But the same day we launched, Edison Chen, who is the owner of the streetwear brand Clot, COOT, who's made, I don't know, probably 20 plus shoes with Nike, teased the fact that there's a Zerocool card in his next Nike shoe. Now, it's a single card. It's not a whole release. And I've honestly forgot to even mention it on my other interview. So breaking news live, with you. Like, how cool is that? I mean, I spent 6 years at StockX and Campus trying to get Nike to work with us. And on the first day that we launched Zerocool, we have a Nike product that's out there. It's a single card of the shoe in the I mean, so cool to have it. It's a Zerocool card. It's a one-off. But so, you'll see us doing things like that, right? Nike releases with important streetwear brands, important part of culture. So, we want to be there and have trading cards as part of that release.
So let's talk a little bit about your thoughts, the strategy behind the first brand released under the Zerocool banner being the Gary Veefriends. And I want Well, I'll let you just talk to the strategy. Then I have some follow-up questions, but just the strategy behind that being the first one.
Well, look, in addition to the things I noted, obviously Gary, his intersection, and NFTs being, kind of now and culture. For those people that have watched the growth of NFTs and trading cards almost concurrently over the past couple of years, there's been a divide about that, or there's at least a camp that there is a divide. And I think it's great that you're having Chris and Josh on, soon. I think maybe it was next week that you're having those guys on.
Saturday, yeah.
I'm big fans of Car Ladder. I'm big fans of both of them personally, and Christina. And but they've been very outspoken against NFTs. They love to talk shit about NFTs. So great. So here's a trading card. What's a trading card of? I don't know. So now you have a physical trading card. You don't like digital. Now you have a physical trading card of the same thing. So I think there's something really interesting there, just about bringing together the physical and digital in a card, because people have spoken, have suggested one of the most common suggestions we get is, hey, why don't you do a NFT, a digital card that represents the physical, which, by the way, is exactly what StockX is doing right now with sneakers. They're creating an NFT that represents the physical, so you can buy and sell that NFT. And what you're really doing is it just represents, it's like a claim ticket for the physical sneaker that sits in their vault. We will absolutely do that at some point in trading cards. We're not there yet. Topps isn't there yet. But those things are very obvious as we move forward. So I think that doing the inverse of that, making a physical trading card of the digital NFT, is a pretty interesting place to start, because this is obviously where these things go.
So, what you were mentioning about the NFT representing the card that might be involved, the NFT basically in that scenario becomes title to the card, and now you don't necessarily need to arrange for the vault service to switch accounts. The NFT holder has a claim on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That's pretty. So let's talk about the reverse then. So now we've got these cards that are, they don't represent an NFT, but they're simply based on an NFT. They're collectible cards based on, in this case, the Veefriends characters. Right. One of the things I've been thinking, Josh, is, we'll talk about what these packs are going to sell for under the Blind Dutch auction, how Blind Dutch auction works, and why you like that method of sale. But I'm trying to think to myself, how are these cards going to be valuable in the future, especially if they sell for a lot of money right out of the gate? How are they going to be? How is value going to be attributed to it? So I think of a couple of things. It's the first Zerocool product. That's kind of cool in and of itself.
Yep.
It's based on Gary V's characters, which were first seen by the public in NFTs. That's kind of cool. It's a Gary V original creation. But I'm taking it a bit of a step further, and this is pure speculation. I just want to get your thoughts on this. In order for these things to really have long-term value, or maybe to exceed the value that you guys, Gary V, thinks they could have, what would happen if this IP turned into a serious set of IP? Like there were cartoons and there were movies and maybe a Broadway play or something like that. Is that something that's on your mind? Do you think that's on Gary V's mind when he created this line of Veefriends?
Yeah, I mean, Gary has stated that publicly, and having known Gary for many years now, look, Gary has a conversational style that often invites criticism because he's quite energetic and curses a lot, but he's the real deal. He's as legit and as genuine a person as there is, and he speaks all the time about the characteristics of the Veefriends cards, about empathy and support, and compassion and honesty. And he has said very publicly that his life's work is to turn the Veefriends IP into his Star Wars, into his Mickey Mouse, into his Harry Potter or Pokemon. And I'm certainly not going to bet against them. And so I think that we will see that some of these characters, and who knows which ones. I mean, I'm holding here one of the box that I opened with him. This character is called Level-Headed Lizard. I actually was not familiar with this character before I opened it. But, this is a one of one that's autographed by Gary of Level-Headed Lizard. If this becomes Tom and Jerry, right? If this becomes, like as cartoons of that, yeah, I mean, like, this is going to be a super valuable card. No, I don't know. Maybe, I think there's 250 or so different characters. Maybe Levelhead Lizard doesn't become one of the valuable ones, and it becomes, one of those Warner Brothers characters we never heard of anymore. But like 100%. And like, I'm betting on Gary going to do that and turning it. So hopefully he chooses Levelhead Lizard to make it a valuable one for me.
Right. You got to get I don't know who decides, Gary probably decides, or him and a production
100%.
company. They decide what character has the attributes that the public is going to fall in love with. And that might be the one that becomes the most important character from the whole set. So
totally.
You never really know. I guess we'll find out eventually. Let's talk about the packaging. I know in prepping for this that I was told that the packaging was sort of meant to be collectible as well. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. First of all, it should be noted that our cards were printed, packed out, and the packaging built by manufacturers that do work for Panini and Upper Deck and Topps. There's only a handful of companies that do that work in the United States, and so we get to work with the best of the best, just like everyone else, which was great. In full transparency, we wanted this set to come out a little bit earlier than it did, but they're doing work for all the other companies as well, so we had to get in line and find our time. One of the I think defining attributes of Zerocool will be collectible packaging. It's not hard to do, but it takes focus on it, and particularly while we are still small. Topps and Panini, I think Topps released 100, and I think this is the right number, 127 different sets last year, right? Which is crazy, right? And like, if you're doing 120 sets, then you're in scale mode, and you can't make every package collectible, and you can't, and that's okay, right? And that's the business that they're in. So while we are still small, while we are still doing each set with a real focus on its long-term value, I want to be able to make collectible packaging. There's obviously I have a history in the sneaker and streetwear industry with StockX. I mean, it's such an easy way to add real great value and distinguish things. Some of the packaging for sneakers that Nike and Adidas have done, it's unbelievable. It's extraordinary. People keep the boxes, and the version with the special packaging sells for 3, 4, 5x what the normal one does. And it's just cool and fun to keep around. I've seen people, I myself do it, where I'll have like prison boxes that I'll keep stacked up, and that's just paper. So the Veefriends box is meant to be collectible. It's it's a really nice quality wood box that opens up and slide, and hopefully people keep it. And we are actually thinking we have some extras that we might have Gary sign, and maybe we'll bring with us to give away at Min or the National or somewhere else, because it also, when you create high quality boxes, it lends itself to things like having Gary sign it, or having additional things on top of it. So
yeah, definitely. Speculate here for me for a second. What percentage of the 800 packs or boxes do you think are going to be remain sealed and unopened?
That's a good question. I would bet that I don't know. I really have no reason to come up with a number other than, let's say, a quarter. About a quarter of the boxes end up people that just put it away, thinking, hey, for a Zerocool release ever, and to your point, betting long term on Veefriends as IP, that it's worth it to just put it away and so on. Hey, I'll tell you, my personal plan is that I'm trying to buy 2 cases, and there's 4 boxes in a case, so I'm trying to buy 8 boxes. 4, so that's 2 cases, and 1 to open and 1 to stick away.
How much did you bid?
I'm not gonna say that, but I am also expecting, in full transparency, because we put this on the site. So there's 1,000 total boxes, 200 we've done for seeding, and as chief vision officer and creator of Zerocool, I've seeded myself 1 case, and I'm trying to buy the other. So if I'm successful enough, I don't know what the clearing price is, because I'm trying to buy it. So
yeah, okay, right on.
Mm-hmm.
How has the response been so far, as far as bids coming in? Like, if there's
that I know. I know.
Yeah,
So
if there's 800 boxes available for sale, that's not very many, man. I'm sure there's people who would buy them all up if they could. Are they all spoken for already? Like, are there enough bids in already?
Well, no. So the nature of the blind Dutch auction is such, and this number I know. We're obviously live right now, right in the middle of it. So it's what are we? It's Wednesday, right? So the auction ends in about 12 hours. No, in 21 hours.
21 and a half.
Excuse me. It ends at 9 p.m. Eastern. So what is that?
You go. 21. It ends in 21 and a half hours. Right.
21. Oh yeah, we could have just gone to the site. Duh, thank you. By last count, a couple hours ago, there were about 15,000 bids so far. Now, we don't know if the people that are going to win have bid, because the nature of the blind Dutch auction is the top 800 bids win. So those 15,000 bids could all be, $50 or something. And, my gut is that the clearing price, just based on, nothing other than a guess, my guess is the clearing price is going to be somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000. Could be more, could end up being less. It's purely just a function of the bids. If the 800th highest bid is $500, the clearing price is $500, and everybody pays $500, even if that top bid was $10,000 or something like that. But if the 800th bid is $1,000 and the clearing price is $1,000, that's how it works. So we don't know, where it's going to be, or if the winners have already bid. And usually at every blind Dutch auction that we had done at StockX and before, you get most of the bids that happen right at launch, and then in the last hour or two. We'll see if that plays out the same, but I do expect to get a lot of bids in the last couple hours.
But you have enough bids so far to sell them all.
Yeah, for sure, right? Absolutely. There's well more than 800. So if whatever the clearing price would be at that amount, we would sell.
Awesome. Okay. Why do you love the blind Dutch auction so much?
So first of all, we didn't make this up. We spent literally years at StockX talking to economists, talking to professors, studying markets, trying to figure out what is a fair way to release products that have way more demand than supply. The obviousness of the call it just insanity of how some sneakers are released and how some of the cards have been released at places like Target, over the years is obvious, right? Like, it is completely illogical to sell a $50 widget for $10. Like, who's not going to buy this, whatever it is? It's worth $50, but I'm selling it for $10. So it's free money that's sitting on the shelves at Target, at Foot Locker, at Nike stores. Like, that is completely illogical, but it's a function of that these products they are consumer products by nature. They've gone through the supply chain and the distribution model because of what it is, but because of the disparity between supply and demand, the market says it's worth more. When you're in that situation, the Targets of the world, the Foot Locker of the world, don't have the mechanisms to change that, to make the system fair for how they distribute it, other than just whoever shows up and gets it, or a raffle, et cetera. They don't have a method to change pricing. But on the internet, we do. In the actual markets, oil and gas and the
commodities.
The commodities markets, we do. We have ways to change that, and a blind Dutch auction is one of those mechanisms. It's the one that we've decided that we think is the best way to do that. It creates what we think is a truly fair system, and there's 3 reasons why. So first of all, everybody pays the same amount. So that's really important, right? We're selling this asset, this widget, this box of cards. We're selling all 800 at the exact paid out market. Did I lose you? You still there?
I'm here. I lost you for a minute there, but you're back.
Okay, you got number 1. So number 1 is everybody pays the same amount. Number 2, in this case 800, but the people who bid the most get the product. So that's just a system of fairness. People who are willing to pay the most get the product, right? And number 3, nobody can argue that that's not a fair market price, because everybody is willing to pay at least that amount, that clearing price. In this case, let's just say that the clearing price of the 800th highest bid was $500. Everybody was willing to pay at least $500. So no one can argue that's not fair to pay that. But on top of that, there's sort of this bonus that happens by the nature of the Dutch auction by setting a clearing price down, which is that almost everybody gets a product for less than what they bid. So everybody's happy. Like you can't not be happy that you were willing to pay $1,000, but you got it for $500. And because there's 800 units for Veefriends, the number will probably be somewhere about 97 or 98% of the people get the product for less than what they bid. So it's a win-win-win. They get it for less than what they wanted to pay. Everybody pays the same, and it's a fair market price. It's not an arbitrary retail price. This is a mechanism to let the market set the price, and that's the most important part of this.
So as a potential customer, I can go in and I can put in a couple bids. I could throw in a bid for say $300, hoping that gets me in. That might be my max budget. Or if I want to guarantee I'm going to get a box, I might want to throw in a bid of $10,000. But if 799 other people also bid 10,000 or more, that's what we're all paying, right?
So very, very good point. And we saw this the very first IPO, the very first blind Dutch auction we did at StockX. We weren't using credit card holds, and 3 people bid $1 million for a pair of slides that were, like 100-hour slides, because they understood how it worked, and they were betting, because there were a couple thousand of them. They were betting that, but if everyone had bid $1 million, we would have had a problem, because we weren't going to try to charge people $1 million for a pair of slides. Now we use credit card holds for a number of reasons, but it also it makes sure that we don't have that problem as well. I mean, there's a lot of people that have pretty high limits on their credit card, but same thing. If 800 people all bid $10,000, then that's what the price will go for.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the best strategy then, really?
It's truly just what are you willing to pay for it, and that's also why it's a blind Dutch auction. There's no FOMO. There's no like price declining. You got to try to beat somebody or beat a clock, or it's just like, what are you actually willing to pay for it? The whole concept here is to try to find a mechanism that gets to what is the fair market price at that given time. So it really just is what are you willing to pay? And if the product goes more, then and your credit card isn't charged if the dollar is more. And if you win, you'll pay either what you bid, or more likely you'll actually get it for less than what you're willing to pay.
Right. I bought one thing from a StockX blind Dutch auction way back, and I was able to purchase a pack. It was that Topps
Bowman Chrome X,
the green Chrome that you did.
Bowman Chrome X, which, like, shout out to Topps and David Liner and Clay and the guys who were there who were willing to try something different back then. It's the only other time a trading card has been sold using a true blind Dutch auction. The product was okay. Like, we recognized it, they were all numbered to 31. There were no autos. There were only 3 hits in there. Vlad, Tatis, and Alonso. But I think it got to a fair price. I think the product ended up being about, I want to say maybe $100 a box is what the clearing price was at or something. So not $1,000 product, but that's okay. The market price was about $100. So it was a fair process. Is that your recollection of it? Were you disappointed with the product? Were you happy with how it played out? Like, what was your recollection of it?
Yeah, I thought the blind Dutch auction worked well. I don't remember what I ended up paying, somewhere between $100 and $200. Yeah. And it was fine. I don't remember what I got, but it's a while ago already. Actually, it's a couple of years ago now. It was
October of 19.
There you go. Let's take a minute. Let's show everybody what we're talking about here, what this packaging and these Veefriends cards look like. So I'm just going to share the screen here. So this is the packaging. What is this, Josh? Is this a box? Is this a box that has packs in it? Describe the format.
Yep. So, this is Natural Treasure's flawless type of quality and design. 1 box, 1 pack, 10 cards in a pack. It happens to be that this promotional photo is showing 5 of the 10 cards that you might get. And, those products, you'll have a mix of different scarcity and hits in there. You'll have some base cards, you'll have some lower numbered in general. And the full checklist is on the site, zerocool.com. but there are cards numbered to 8, numbered to 5, numbered to 2, and 1 of 1s.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So let's have a look at some. I got some more pictures here. We've got, so what is this? I was confused by this Toronto and St. Louis. Do you know what the theme here is besides Toronto and St. Louis? Why they're on this card together?
I actually have no idea. I was not familiar with this particular Veefriend. Again, there's about 250, I think, different Veefriends. I own a couple. I did not know this one. So okay.
There you go. We've got the No Notorious.
So let me stop real quick. This is one of the 15 hand-drawn sketches in the product that you can pull. So I think these are going to be the most valuable, the highest scarcity. There's I think 250 autograph cards, and then there's 15 hand-drawn sketches. This is one of them that then went into the into the sorting.
Okay.
A lot of people like this Veefriend, the macro micro guy.
I don't see a guy on there.
Or yeah, it's just the word macro. It's
the macro micro card. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then we've got, see, this guy's kind of cute, right? The adaptable alien.
Yep.
And we've got the.
Yeah. So this guy, Candid Clownfish, I think is a pretty well known Veefriend. It should be noted that this is all Veefriends V1, which came out last year. Veefriends V2, Gary just started talking about and comes out, I want to say, in either April or May. And all of the characters are going from, these were all his hand-drawn sketches, to call it a more professional-looking animated character. So the V2, which will come out, which will come out soon, you'll see sort of an elevated, imagery of all the characters.
Yeah, he's teased that. I've seen a couple of them. And they are much more advanced looking than these guys. This guy here kind of just reminds me of Nemo. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but
100%. I see that.
Of course, with young kids, that's what I see. And then we've got the very, 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 very lucky black cat. Anything special about this one?
So this is one of the ones. It's a printed character, but that's a hand autographed version there for Gary.
And I mean, his autographs do all right on the in other products he's been in, like Ginter and
Yep.
that. So I saw in the comments someone said Toronto, St. Louis being Blue Jays and Cardinals, so that does make sense.
Got it.
Couple of birds, right? Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So listen, you mentioned just sort of as an aside earlier that you had to release these a little bit later than you wanted to because of printing backlog and competing for space with Upper Deck and Panini and Topps and Leaf, I'm sure. So I want a bit of an off-topic question, but now that you have acquired Topps, or Fanatics Collectibles has acquired Topps, and what do you guys have planned, or what's the strategy moving forward to actually being able to access capacity at printing facilities?
Yeah, I mean that's almost issue number one. Now, look, it's only been about 2 months since we acquired Topps. Topps is still running basically as is. Those guys have been doing a phenomenal job. The fact that the whole industry grew and Topps grew as much as it did with, the team that it did and just doing that is really, those guys did a phenomenal job. And so we're just slowly working with them to integrate into the business. We already had a really great team. They have 350 people. And one of those topics is, how do we resolve production? Just as an FYI, because I think it's super interesting, I didn't really know this until I got onto this side of the business. It's actually not the printers and printing cards that's an issue. It's the sorting. So though you can print as many cards as you want, but the way that parallels and autographs and rare cards get into packs at certain intervals, so that there's only 2 autographs per box or whatever it is these algorithmic sorting machines that almost look like milk cartons or something that sit above conveyor belts and drop cards down at a certain rate, and it's all algorithmically programmed. And so that is the bottleneck in the industry. But the printing companies, and there's about a half a dozen or so, they've all been investing in more sorting machines, et cetera. And so my gut is that we have maybe another I don't know, 6 to 12 months of printing capacity issues before it all sort of gets sorted out in the industry and we don't have that issue. And so that's been the bottleneck as the industry grew really fast and you had these very specialized machines that enables it. Because the flip side is we could print a whole product that's all base cards, but I don't think anybody wants that.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to now to the cost of the boxes of the Veefriends, because I see some people were guessing in the chat what they're going to sell for. And I was talking to someone else earlier, Mike Geo. I was talking to him earlier today, and he told me that they had, him and a couple of buddies, they had a bit of a pool what these things would end up clearing, what the clearing price would be. So I think it's okay by him if I share what he told me his guess was. So
totally.
First, so Yamwax in the crowd, he says let's guess on the settle price. He's guessing $1,050 a box. Corey Carr is coming in at $2,500 to $3,000. That's kind of more where I'm at. Tom Bullard's at $2,500, and I saw another comment basically saying no, Yamwax is going to be a lot higher than $1,000. I know Mike Geo, his guess was $2,000. So you said between 1 and 2. Just when I think about how limited these things really are, and how many Gary's network and friends and people who are going to buy this because it's Gary. I mean, 2,000 seems like it's not like low to me now. What do you, really?
I know, and now now that we're talking through it, now that actually you're probably right, Gary. I mean, I don't I don't want to artificially influence it. I really don't know like where it's at or where it's going to be, so I don't want to say. But you make a good point. Like 800 is really. I mean, Gary has what 10 million Instagram followers, like at least that many on every other platform. So yeah, I think a big. And I also don't know the answer to this right now. I think a big open question is going to be: will hobby shops, distributors, the Blowout and David Adams of the world, if any of those guys get in it and want to try to take a big position of the 800, I think that might also artificially influence. I don't say artificially. That might influence where the price ends up at, or whether it just becomes a call it like a consumer only product. I don't know.
Okay, let's look at a couple more guesses here. Richard says 5,000. Sports Card Stallion is 1,500 to 2. Jeremy from Collectors League is 6,000. Joseph's at 3,750. And Brendan says almost an ounce of gold. There you go. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I will say, and I don't want to depress the price either, is I try to look at it as a comparison. Like, and I kind of always use 2018 Prism right these days as like my anchor. So 2018 Prism hobby boxes are still around like 4,000 a box, about. So that I kind of was like, do I think it's going to be more or less than that? Would I rather have that or a box of Veefriends? Like I do that with a lot of products, but I tend to use 2018 Prism as my measuring stick for wax.
Well, let's look at what Carvin says, because he knows a thing or two about this market. He says the floor of a Veefriend NFT is $40,000. $5K is a drop in the bucket for the NFT holders.
So that's a good perspective too, for sure. That's good, Carvin.
It is.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you again, so we're going to switch gears a lot here, I think. I wanted to ask you, you're doing this product by Blind Dutch Auction. Makes sense to me on such a limited edition product. To what extent are you going to implement that method in Topps products moving forward?
Yeah. The answer is that it is absolutely part of the strategy. We don't yet know how much, which products, when, et cetera. I mean, that's part of the discussions and the work going on right now to understand that. Also to, educate the top leaders about that and let them, make the decision and how it works in with the rest of their plans as well. So the answer is yes, but we don't really know much more. It's also worth noting there are other mechanisms to create market-based pricing, to create equitable forms of release other than just a Blind Dutch auction. So for example, and I've said this before, I could see us creating a product or releasing a product as a break, where the only way it's available is as a break by us or by a breaking partner that we work with, because that's just another way to distribute a product fairly using a market price and to do that. So, you could also, auctions are good if you want to maximize price, So maybe there's some very, very rare cards or product that makes more sense to do as an auction because they're so limited. And what we want to do is and often that stuff, at StockX, we used to do that as for charity, where you try to maximize the release. There was only one of whatever. So look, there's a lot of different ways to release it. And, all of that is going. And the end goal, by the way, is a holistic distribution and pricing strategy that enables so that you can have products that sit on the shelves of retail at their real value. If a $20 blaster box is on the shelf at Target and it's worth $20, then it'll sit there until somebody who values it, there's not free money sitting on the shelf, and you don't have this artificial craziness that goes on, so that a kid who wants to buy a $20 box of cards can go buy a $20 box of cards. That's really the goal, but it only works as a holistic strategy across all of it, that the stuff is really valuable, gets priced at a fair price for that. So
basically by price point, right? Like the very loyal and traditional collectors of Topps flagship every year, they're not going to want to buy Topps flagship by blind Dutch auction. I don't think. I think they're going to want to go to their retailer or their LCS and buy it there. So yeah, you're going to save the blind Dutch auction format for more limited edition, higher end stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I would even go so far as to say that a really good shorthand is, if you have to ask the question, what is this worth? Those are the things that lend itself to blind Dutch auction or other forms of market-based pricing. We just went through, what was the range there from 1,000 to 6,000 or so? We're all wondering what this is going to be worth. This is the exact type of product that you want to use a blind Dutch auction for.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this then now, Josh. And I'm going to go away from Veefriends for a sec, but I do have more questions on it to come back to. Obviously, there's so much speculation as to what Fanatics is going to be bringing to the industry, and a lot of it circles around the chain of distribution. Totally. Are you able to share anything with us? And I know I'm going to put you on the spot, but you only know what you know right now and where you guys are at and what you're able to say. But I'm just going to hone in on, I guess, 3 of the major stakeholders in our hobby right now: distributors, LCSs, and breakers. Of course, collectors are the most important, but they're not part of distribution until secondary market. So I'm not raising them right now. But what can you tell us, if anything, about plans for distributors, LCSs, and breakers?
Yeah. This is the most important question we'll talk about today for sure. And just as an FYI, I just realized my phone's about to die. So what I'll do is I'll answer this question. I know you do a segment where you like to identify and call out a lot of people that are on. So I'll switch to my computer after I ask this question, and then I'll come back on and we'll keep going. So 3 parts, right? Distributors, card shops, and breakers. For sure, all 3 of those groups will still continue to be part of the hobby for long term. Hobby shops, frankly, they're the most important, and they've always been the most important. That hasn't changed with us. It's always been the touch point for the customer, the place where you can learn, the place where it's the greatest opportunity to come into the hobby. Distributors and breakers who buy direct from the card manufacturers today, all of that is on one hand up in the air to figure out how that evolves, but those functions still have to exist. The cards still have to move through there. We're never going to have everything 100% go direct to consumer, and we're never going to have 100% where we go direct to hobby shops either. Distributors have to continue to exist. And breakers are kind of similar to hobby shops, and they become almost more important, or they have increase in importance. I don't want to say more important, increase in importance, as they also are a way to bring in new people to the hobby. All of this goes to that same point I mentioned earlier, which is, how do we grow the hobby? How do we bring more people in? How do we keep those people in there, create that experience for them? And so because of that, and this dovetails with another related topic, which is, we will continue to create technology not only for direct to consumer, but in order to keep those people in the hobby, in order to make it easy for them to do the things that they want to do. So if that means that we then use that technology as a way to distribute product to hobby shops or distributors or breakers, so be it. We could, for example, run a blind Dutch auction where the only people that can participate are hobby shops. And it's just a mechanism of distribution to them, and gets a pricing to them, but they're the only ones that can participate, or breakers or distributors or whomever. So these things are actually interrelated. It's not like blind Dutch auction is just for direct releases and like all of this goes together as we figure out what is that right holistic strategy. Because look, if we do this right, if the hobby shops and the distributors and the breakers, also all embrace technology, embrace bringing in new customers, this whole thing is 10x, 20x where we're at today. It's so small how many people actually collect cards right now compared to the number of sports fans, the number of culture collector. Like, it's so small. So that's the goal. There's no magic bullet on that one. Like, we have to work through all of that and figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. Before you have to go to your computer, I hear some LCS owners who don't get allocation. They're very frustrated with the current the current system because they can't get product. Is Fanatics going to attempt to make that easier for LCSs to get product?
It's actually a broader conversation than that, which is so there was so Topps has an annual industry conference where it's breakers, distributors, hobby shops, etc. It was last week. It was in Arizona, and I was there with them, and they told everybody that they're working on a broader hobby shop program, and that's right. And we're gonna work with them to figure out, because it's not just about allocation. That's one part of it, and who gets allocation, how, when, why, all of that should be more clear, and it will be more clear. And there will be a better system for it. But it's also about things like sharing data back and forth, or maybe there's a place where there's co-op dollars and marketing dollars that we actually help market local shops. Or, we now have the leagues and the players associations as equity partners in our business. So if you're a local hobby shop in DC, well, then maybe we tap the players association and have nationals players available to come do breaks at your store. Or, there's just a lot of ways that we can work with them. So there needs to be a broader hobby shop program, just generally, and allocation will be part of that. And it will get clearer and more, at the very least, everyone will have a fair opportunity to at least state their case, understand why they get product and why they don't.
Okay, no, that makes sense to me. I've also heard rumblings or speculation that Fanatics is going to open up a chain of Fanatics sports card stores. Is there a strategy there that we're going to learn about in the future?
There is nothing that is imminent. I certainly have no news coming soon that we're going to do that. Fanatics has local shops in arenas where they sell product, and they do sell trading cards at some of them. Fanatics runs the NBA store. We want trading cards to be everywhere. I don't think that right now that's anywhere near the highest priority for us to do. But who knows? As we go on, we want trading cards to be everywhere. And by the way, there's Fanatics and there's Fanatics Collectibles, which are two separate companies. Obviously, we're very much, we're majority owned by Fanatics. But those stores in the arenas are run by Fanatics, the commerce company, which is separate from us. So, all of these things we're working through. But I can promise you, there's no next week all of a sudden we're going to announce franchises of Fanatics hobby shops. Like that's not a priority for us.
Okay. How's your phone battery?
We're I'm really close to dying, so it's a good time for me to switch.
Okay, I'll let you go temporarily. You will be back.
I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
All right. Let's let him go, and Josh, we'll see you back here momentarily. I'm gonna just go through some comments with you guys while we wait for him to come back. I got more questions for him, of course. Let's see what Carbon says. He says, all parts of the ecosystem are important. It's what you provide for other partners of the food chain that will be important. We all need to work together to promote the hobby, all as partners. Yeah, that's a good comment. Oh, that was fast. And you're back. Holy.
Technology's great.
Very good.
Different view now. Everyone's gets a different view of my toy shelf.
I like that. I like this view better. I like seeing all those toys. Nice stuff. Okay, I'm gonna roll right into my next question. Speculation. The hobby is speculating that Fanatics Collectibles or some related entity is going to bring grading of cards in house. Maybe acquire you guys acquired an existing card company. Are you going to acquire an existing grading company?
That is very much a TBD. I really don't know. This gets to the larger point around the integrated customer experience. We have to, I mean, it's our opportunity, it's our obligation to create the foundation of a technology platform that the customer can do everything they want to do on it. Learn about cards, buy cards, open cards, have them broken, have them sent for grading, have them vaulted, insurance, storage. Michael Rubin was on, I forget, it was CNBC or somewhere, and he made a comment in addressing all these different parts, and people took that as the Fanatics is going to go do every one of those. And that's not the case. His point is that the customer needs to be able to do all those things and do it easy. And so we have to figure out how to do that. It means we could partner. It means we could buy a grading company. We could start our own. I don't know. All those are possibilities, but for sure the customer wants to do that. And the only way we grow this hobby is by creating technology that allows people to come in easy, do the things they want to do easy, reduce that friction. So that's part of it. But right now the priority is like get up and running, Topps integrated in, supply chain issues, make cards, launch Zerocool. Like that's the priority. And then what you'll probably see as the next highest priority for us will be working with breakers. And whether that is we create our own breaking, we work with other breakers, because that's, if you go down the line of what a customer is doing with that box, right after they buy it, the next question is, do I open it or do I have someone else open it for me, i.e. break it, or do I, store it? So that's kind of how we think about this, like as we're moving through that customer journey.
Yeah, no, fair. There's still lots to be determined,
Totally.
Which obviously makes a lot of sense. Okay, I wanted to talk about transparency. There's a big, collectors, myself included, we want to know what exists. We want to know what is out there. It's some cards come with serial numbers on them, some cards don't. It would be nice if you just knew. Sometimes you get pack odds, sometimes you don't. How important is transparency in the not just for you, Josh, and in your role with Fanatics Collectibles, but I want you to speak to that, of course. But how important is transparency in our hobby overall, from your perspective, and then hone in on what your vision is for what I alluded to just now in terms of knowing how many cards are out there for common player, even in a flagship type product.
Yeah, transparency. I mean, it's everything. I have this idea, and I have no idea if it's possible, but I have this idea that we can get to a place where we release the production runs of every single product that's made, whether it's Top Series 1 or whether it's Veefriends, like at every level. And, there's a lot of reasons of why that's not done. But I think that the hobby, the industry, the market is mature enough collectively to take in that information and deal with it appropriately. I think everybody probably gets sticker shock the first time that happens. And we learn that by the way, I don't actually even know what the production runs are, some of this stuff, but what's Panini Prism? It's 10 million cards or something. I'm making up a number, right? I think everybody probably gets sticker shock the first time, but I just think markets are smart. Markets are, and we're mature enough as an industry to be able to handle that. And the flip side of it is, like, everybody should have as much information as they can. These are true investable assets. Like, it's not a joke, right? People are spending a lot of money on this stuff. So you should have as much transparency as you would have. Every share of stock that's been issued of every public company, the complete market cap, every share that's been issued. Like all that stuff is important to know so that you get to a true market price and it's a fair system and there's none of that nonsense. So, that's my position on it. And I'm certainly going to try to make that happen. I can't promise that it will, but it'll be a long time, I think, before you see a Zerocool product that doesn't have we have full transparency of the full checklist, the full production run. for Veefriends on Zerocool.com.
You really showed that when you told us earlier that you did, you self-allocated a box of the product. So there's 1,000. So I'm talking about Veefriends Zerocool product right now. There's 1,000 boxes produced. 200 were set aside for promo and replacement or what have you.
Yep.
And 800 are available to the public. I mean, it's just such a small amount every time I come back to it. Do you see the same sort of ratio in other products as well? Like, did you hold back this one because it's the first one and it's, you wanted to get the word out and promo packs and things like that? Like, you guys sent one to me. Unfortunately, it didn't get here in time for me to show it right now. I went to see if it was here today and it wasn't. So I'm upset by that. But
Canadian Post is rough, man.
Exactly.
Like, that's just that percentage, it would be crazy on a big run, but I think the number is probably about right. Maybe it's 100, 200 boxes that end up for promotion, and we'll have to figure out. Topps probably, I'm sure they know this way better than we do in terms of how much needs to get held back for replacement damage, that sort of stuff. So that's part of it. But no, for this one, it was really as simple. And again, like, full transparency here, it was really as simple as Gary and I both said, hey, let's each take 100 boxes for our seating, our teams, and just to hold back. And it's that. And if there are, if there's a bunch of extra after that, like, it'll get put away for an archive or something like that. Like, we're not going to re-release it. We're not going to, put it back into the market. Like, it's meant, there's 800 being sold and that's it.
Right on. Okay. Back to the greater hobby for a second and Fanatics strategy. So you guys, I've been using the word, I don't know if it's the right word, but I've been using the word when Fanatics hijacked the licenses for football, baseball, basketball. What about hockey? I'm a hockey collector. I collect everything, but I collect hockey too. What are your thoughts on hockey right now as far as your business goes?
Well, look, the
tread lightly here. I have a soft spot for hockey.
The NHL re-signed with Upper Deck. I forget exactly when, but it was in the past. It was in the past year. So the NHL re-signed with Upper Deck. They've been with them for a long time. So that's the way it is. There's the opportunity for us in acquiring. I'm not going to use the word you use. In acquiring baseball, basketball, and football, was that the licenses were going to expire shortly. So we didn't. We can't take over the license. We can only just get from when the current ones expires. And that's what we did. We then acquired Topps in order to get into baseball sooner. But, for hockey, I forget how long they re-signed that deal for, but, it won't be up until then. And as it gets closer to expiration, we would analyze that like we would any potential, because Topps also has F1 and UEFA and Bundesliga. And so, it's not on there. Separately, Upper Deck has some really great brands that they, for basketball and football that they've had over the years. So I don't know, like, maybe there's an opportunity to actually work with Upper Deck, and so we can all leverage all the great brands. It's my hope that there's a business deal somewhere in there. We're now off the top of hockey. My apologies, but there hasn't been a Michael Jordan basketball card in a set in a very long time. Like, I don't know. So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe if those are some of the things that we can reconcile without having to buy Upper Deck or get the hockey license.
Well, I guess if you're going to do anything with Upper Deck, maybe you'd do some hockey too. I guess time would tell.
Well, sorry, but I will say, because one of the things I think is really interesting I kind of look at it as there's like four major sports: baseball, basketball, football, and culture. And not to downplay F1 and some of the other brands, but what if we start creating crossover product? Like, maybe we have a set it's a Toronto set, and it's all interesting people from Toronto, and it's Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady and DeMar DeRozan and Drake and I don't actually know any Toronto hockey players, but so. Like, but that concept, and so, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe those are our joint projects that we can do with Upper Deck and Panini and do that. Like, that kind of stuff is interesting. And as we think about how we expand the hobby, it can't just be make the exact same product 50 times or whatever it is. Like, we have to start getting creative on that. And so maybe there's a way to work with Upper Deck and hockey on that.
Switching it up again, Tops now. So you guys acquired Tops. That was announced early January, like I think the first business day of the year. How long did it take for after the announcement? Obviously, you did your due diligence and all that. So, how long did that deal take to get done? And were you in there talking to their people, their key people, and trying to see what the company was like on the inside? Really try to get, it's one thing from the outside for all of us collectors, but to really get in there and look at what the guts of this company are. How, did you get in there? How long did it take? Speak a bit about getting that deal done.
Yeah. So that is a Michael Rubin question. That's what he does. And that's what he want me to
call him and get him on?
We can FaceTime him in and see if he. No, look, that's what he does, and he does very, very well. And so, no, that was very much him. I've known the Tops guys for a while, but that's when you get it at that level, it's Michael. He's talking to Michael Eisner and the company, Madison Dearborn. The company that owned them. So that was that. But I will say what was most important, I think, is from the very first conversations with MLB and the MLB Players Association was the very strong just belief from everybody or desire that baseball stays with Tops. Baseball's been on Tops since 1952. Tops is baseball. And it was always the goal to either acquire Tops, license the brand, do something. It was never the goal to move baseball off of the brand of Tops. And it was just very happy that we were able to do that sooner rather than later and keep it going because, for all the history of it, it's very important.
Well, I got to tell you, man, that like from the period of, mid-August when it was announced that Fanatics got the licenses to the announcement of Tops, there was so much speculation in the hobby about how are you guys going to make cards? Some people said, well, they have to buy an existing company. Some people were there were people in the Panini camp, the Tops camp, the Upper Deck camp. Everyone had, people are in one of the camps or multi-camps. But when it was announced that it was Tops, to me, it was like, well, obviously that makes the most sense. Did it make the most sense to you from the get-go as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that basketball and football have been with multiple brands historically, we'll see if anything happens with Panini. I mean, Michael has stated publicly that he would be open to acquiring Panini. But Topps Chrome basketball is as important as Panini basketball as ever. Topps Chrome football is as important, right? So if we have just Topps, we can make every sport. I'd be more than happy with that. And it was also when you just look at the licenses and everything else, baseball was expiring sooner than basketball and football. So we just had to we had to move more quickly on baseball anyway.
Makes sense. Okay. I have on the ticker right now. I'm going to do a little promo for something I'm involved in now called TradeSafe. Have you heard of TradeSafe yet?
This is like the second or third time I've heard about it. I've actually would love to hear about it from you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So it's a new company, a new service in the hobby that myself and there's 7 people on the team, and it was founded by a gentleman by the name of Steve Foley about a year ago. And over the past year, he recruited me about 10 months ago, and we've been building up the idea, the systems, the process, and of course the team. And so we just launched a week and a half ago. And basically, thank you. Basically, the mission of TradeSafe is to provide safe trading for peer-to-peer hobbyists who are doing deals on any social media platform. So if you meet somebody in a Facebook group, or you meet somebody on a message board or Twitter, Instagram, wherever it is, and you don't necessarily trust each other, you don't know them, maybe they don't have vouchers, maybe you don't have a reputation yet, who cares? Use TradeSafe. And the way it works is that you agree on the deal, you fill out our form, and we send you a shipping label. You send your cards into our hub. We verify. We make sure we verify with both parties. Once everyone's verified, then we ship it out. So let's say you and I are doing a deal, Josh, and I don't know that you're actually going to send me my cards, but you insist I send first. well, hey, look, Josh, I trust you, but let's use TradeSafe. All right. So I'm going to
Yep.
send my cards over to TradeSafe, and they're not going to send my cards to you until you send your cards to them that they can then forward on to me. And we also are going to be able to handle cash deals as well. So if you're just buying and selling. So
Nice.
that's what it is, really trying to bring a safe option to a problem that the hobby has had for quite some time. So that's what it is.
That's great. I mean, 1,000%. It's a needed service. This idea I've heard talked about a lot in the sneaker industry. At StockX, people used to ask us all the time to try to create some sort of service. It was never a priority for StockX. I think that like it's needed, so that's good. Hopefully, you guys can figure out how to make that work as a business. Is there a fee for the for the people?
Yes, of course. $10 per side. So $10 to.
So regardless of the value of the card.
Regardless, well, we are maxing the values up to our insurance coverage.
Right.
So yeah, up to $15,000 or $20,000, and up to 20 cards each way. So yeah,
that's great. No, I mean, look, it's a needed service. So hopefully you can make it work as a business. It's frankly it's a tough business, I think. And so I'm rooting for you, because it's one of those things that you see these things happen over time where there's a customer need, but there's not the right unit economics, or there hasn't been the right, and a lot of times it's the timing of it or technology of it or whatever. So hopefully that the timing is right and you guys can do it. So congrats.
Well, I got to say, you were inspiring. When you were on here last time, I asked you what advice would you give somebody who was looking to start a new business in the hobby? And your response was basically twofold. It was tell everybody about it. Do you remember that?
Totally.
Tell everybody about it. And then it was execute. Just do it.
Yeah.
And so, we took a while to we went through a few challenges of, app and money and all these things. And then we decided to be to get the first mover advantage and launch with a website and a form, and then, prove the concept and go from there. So you were inspiring that back in July last year, Josh, and I hope you inspired others. I'm sure you did. I think the best advice is, again, execution is probably the most important thing in getting things done in business.
1,000%. And just get it out there. You will learn more in the 3 weeks after you launch than you did in the 10 months it took you to get to launch, right? Like, just get out there. The customers will tell you what you need to know. So that's great. That's great. That's awesome.
I appreciate it. Thanks for hearing me out on that, and the platform, and everybody watching. Thanks for letting me talk about that for a few minutes and getting Josh's feedback. That's awesome. Okay. I don't have anything else on my notes to ask you. I'm going to let's hang out for a couple minutes here. Put it to the chat. I have to admit to the chat, it's been tough to watch everything going on in there so far. So I'm going to there we go. One of one memorabilia card said that you inspired him last time, and one of one memorabilia cards does make some pretty awesome custom cards, and custom for events and life events is what it is. They even sent me one. It's back up there, right beside my daughter. Graded guards, said you inspired him. That's pretty awesome. David Owen says, Luber, you still own that hoodie, CryptoPunk?
Oh yeah, I do. I'm holding that one long term. I am long on CryptoPunks. They've been pretty volatile, obviously, for a while, but yeah.
You're long. And here's a good question. Offlex says, did you ever hire that assistant that you've been advertising for on your Instagram account?
So I hired one person the first time, and he lasted a week. And so I don't know if that was me or him or whatever. So then we started over again, actually found someone who is perfect and is doing it. In fairness to a lot of the people that applied, and which was humbling, is I was looking for a very, very specific thing, which is not normal, which is have someone that is okay doing a lot of the admin personal assistant stuff that just has to get done, but also is able to do a lot of the higher level work and do that, because I want somebody that can actually engage and I can let them sit in on meetings and help make decisions and be part of it. And I've just never had an assistant in any level. I travel by myself. I just find that stuff easier. So it's kind of like dating or getting married. Sharing your business life with somebody is hard to open that up. So it took a while to find the right person.
Okay, well, congrats. Here's a great question from Tom Bullard. He says, are we going to see players more in the hobby marketing and interacting now that they have a percentage and vested interest to see the hobby grow?
100% we're going to ask. And the players associations that are part of it, which for us, there's 5 entities that have equity in Fanatics Collectibles: the NBA Players Association, MLB Players Association, and NFLPA. And so there's obviously a limit, and you can only do so much, but 100% we're going to ask, and we're going to try to get them more involved, particularly, as I mentioned earlier, like at the local level, where, by the way, they can be way more impactful, right? The backup catcher for the Nationals is way more impactful at a local card shop in Washington than he would be, doing something, live when doing breaking on air with Fanatics. So
fair. We have Eddie from Investacard. He wants to know, what are Fanatics' plans and thoughts on the finance side of leveraging high-end sports cards?
Yeah. So no immediate plans. And that's simply because we talked about that, consumer journey and the sort of integrated experience for them. It's farther down the road, or it's farther down that experience. But for sure, we think that's important. And I personally 100% think that trading cards become more of a traditional financial asset. I think you'll have the vanguards of the world have trading card desks, like they do for other assets. So I think we'll see more of that, and hopefully the work that we do to create that financial technology platform, but even the data and standardizing that at the very beginning, right? Think about, you can have a single card that gets named differently by SGC, BGS, PSA one, and now HGA, ISA, all the others. Even as simple as us, when we create cards, creating consistent metadata across everything so that everybody can hit the card with a RFID stick and know exactly the name, that like all of that stuff, it goes in, all those things help facilitate and stand up the financial business as well, because you have to have all of that as just like the ante to play for all of it. So hopefully that we can support all that stuff, even if we're not even in that part of the industry.
Do you think that there are lots of people, like investor type people, who are just gobbling up high quality cards, whether it's vintage or really rare modern cards, and really quietly just building war chests filled with these cards, because they're, it's like real estate. They're not making any more of them, especially the older ones. Of course, they're making more into the future. But like, is there something like that going on out there right now where this thing could really blow up in the future, like without Fanatics being involved?
Yeah, I mean, that's a different part of the industry, from us for sure. I think there are definitely some. I think it's probably less than there should be, if that makes sense. I think if just at an education level, and again, the making it easier to get in the market and understand it, that there would be a lot of people that have a lot of money, that there's a lot of people for whom spending $1 million on cards was a drop in the bucket and would not be a big deal. So I think that we'll see that as we grow. And I think that's a good thing. The more money in the hobby, it's a good thing. And yeah.
All right, we've got some. You good for time right now? We've got having some.
Yeah, I have like about another 10 minutes. I got to get some dinner and then have another call. So
no problem. Let's. Hobby Champs makes a suggestion. He says, can you change redemption cards to be actual cards of the player with a scratch-off code? Would create value for unopened product containing expired redemptions.
I love that idea. And everything's on the table with regard to redemption cards, the process. Look, it's worth noting, because this is maybe the number one question that we get asked, is, how can we you get rid of redemption cards, all of that. This is process. This is elbow grease. This is, how do you get thousands of players to sign thousands of cards and get them all back in time and not delay the product. And, and which also gets into questions on sticker autos versus on card autos and all of that. It is a complicated thing. And we're obviously going to take a crack at it. And we're obviously going to try to improve the process. But I really like the idea of like, why can't the card itself be nicer? Why can't the card itself also be collectible? So yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks.
All right. Sports Card Stallion wants to know, have you ever thought about having a utility for a physical card? Like I pull a card and get a follow from the person on the card.
Well, think about just the concept of redemption, right? Today, it is almost always a redemption for a card. Why can't that be a redemption for a FaceTime with Mike Trout or a car or, a watch or like the world of possibility, right? And by the way, it doesn't have to be a redemption either, right? It can just be a card that has a QR code that you hit it and it also comes, with that. So yeah, I mean, as we just think about one, the number of ways to create value in products and also just to distinguish the different products so that you have other stuff, I think stuff like that is absolutely a possibility.
Yeah, it's a neat idea for sure. KD Collectible says, what is your opinion on the fractional ownership tokenization of high value rarer assets?
I love this in theory. The few companies in the space, Rally, Collectible, Otis, have been grinding. I mean, really grinding to get to where they're at. I think long-term, this is a really big industry, and there's a lot there. But I do think it's still probably got another couple of years of grinding to really get there because you just need liquidity. You need a lot of liquidity in the space, a lot of people doing it. So as we grow the whole hobby, you have more people that'll be interested in that just by the nature of just more people there. So I think it's more of a long-term thing. Shout out to Rob at Rally. Like, he's done a great job of really grinding and building that. But I wouldn't want to run that business. Like it's a tough business right now to do it. But I do believe in it long-term.
What did you think about Collectible recently announcing that they've added Joe Orlando as in a new president position?
Yeah, I don't know Joe well, but like, God, talk about a guy who's just got to have just the world of institutional knowledge about every part of it. Like, it's amazing, right? Like to have somebody with that purview on the industry, it's amazing.
Yeah, I interviewed him on Sunday on Collectibles YouTube channel, and if anyone watching hasn't seen it, it was a great conversation, and I'd encourage you to go to the Collectible TV YouTube channel and watch that episode along with the other content that they're curating over there. It's really good stuff. Nice. Fire Sports Card says, Josh, how do you feel about the non-game used player-worn relics being used lately, and if Fanatics plans to only use game-used relics in cards?
Yeah, that's a weird thing, right? I don't know. Let me first say that we're definitely several cycles away from getting anywhere near operational. Like I said, we're just getting up to speed with Topps and integrating it. It goes to a higher level question on how do you create value? How do you create valuable cards? And so I don't know. I think that there's a place for relics in cards that aren't game used. Now, is it a jersey? Does it need to be a jersey of the same thing? I don't know. Maybe it's a picture of the player, or maybe like. So I don't know. It's an open question. I agree. It's kind of a weird thing, but I mean, outside of the high end stuff, right? Outside of National Treasure, any patch in a Prism card or a Select card or a Topps card is worth less than the base card anyway. So all of that I think is a weird. It's just a weird construct when you look at if the goal was to create valuable cards and long-term valuable cards, then we're doing all this extra work and time and money and effort to put in stuff, and then we're making cards that are worth less than the cards that don't have the stuff in them. So I don't know, like that, all that stuff I think needs to get relooked at and think of how it works. So
I like to hear that you say that it needs to be re-looked at. I think that's a good approach for now. Just educate yourself and try and figure it out. Find a nice alternative. I think the hobby's biggest complaints really are around the RPAs, and so especially with the money that is spent on those. Genger's Lab wants to know any sneak peeks for Mint Collective.
I'll say this. One of the things that I want to do at Mint is, so I'm speaking, and so there's that, but I'll be there for a lot other than that, is I want to have the opportunity to talk to a lot of people who I don't normally get to talk to. So whether that's hobby shop owners or breakers or people, because there'll be so many people in the hobby there. So we're going to try to figure out a process that that I can get to talk to people, and people that don't normally have a chance to talk to me or other people that work for, Fanatics or Tops to do that. So I think that more than anything, and we'll announce the structure of that and how we facilitate that as we get closer. But that's actually the thing I'm most excited about for a minute.
It's a great opportunity to network at this event for sure. Nate Nicholas wants to know, how are we going to keep kids in the hobby so we don't end up like train set collectors? This is a very important question, critical type of question. And
it's an amazing question. It is the most important question with a pretty comical little joke there. Train set collectors. I remember walking into a hobby shop as a kid. It was called a hobby shop, and it was all trains. I'm like, the hell is this? Where are the baseball cards? This gets to what we were talking about earlier with card shops, supporting local card shops, and technology. So we talk internally a lot about becoming a marketing company, becoming a technology company. We need to spend real money on marketing, bring more people in the hobby, and make it easy for them to stay in the hobby, et cetera. And kids are the tip of the iceberg there, right? It has to be. Some of the hobby shops that when you look at, Rob Veras, who is very, very good at self-promotion, but he's done a great job of creating, specific programs for kids to come into a shop. And so as you look at some of those examples a hobby shop has done, we are going to try to make sure that all other hobby shops, can share that information and understand how to do that, because it is the important part of it.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that they're top of mind, and obviously we all want this thing to last generations. So
right.
We need to keep the next one ready to go. Joe Pro probably has the most important question of the night. He wants to know, are you wearing a Tigers hat or something else?
This is my one of my several Mariners hats. I'm a Griffey fan,
Fair.
I basically wear backwards hats because of Ken Griffey Jr. Like that was like as a kid, he was the cool player who wore backwards hats. So yeah,
backwards hats and hoodies. That's your signature. Coach Brown, any teaser for the next product from Zerocool? I'll add that on the end.
I'll just repeat what I said earlier, that the next major release will be a more traditional IP. So
you do know what it is. Like it's already being designed and all that.
Yeah.
Any target release month or date?
Soon.
Okay. Yeah. Great. M. Jordan says, any chance we bridge more of sneaker culture into cards? What's up, Josh?
Oh, what's up, man? 1,000%. Right. I mean, if I had my dream trading card set, it's probably all of the most important people in there. It's, Murakami and Cause and Travis Scott and Virgil and, Kanye and Pharrell and like that's, to me, the absolute like pinnacle of this. And if we can figure out a way to create sets like that. But it's hard, as I mentioned earlier, around creating those type of sets, because you have to create separate deals with each of those players. I also give a little bit of a sneak preview, is that we hired somebody from the sneaker industry, very notable person. That person starts in a couple weeks, and we will make an announcement. And so if that's to look forward to. And so, but it's all in the same goal, right? Of doing that stuff. So yeah.
Okay, good stuff. We got a few more questions. They keep coming in. So
I know. Let's go another like 5-6 minutes, and I got to eat.
All right. Let's do Greg Cohn. What are the plans for Mitchell and Ness? Will Will you attempt to turn custom jerseys into sneaker type collectibles, concert worn jerseys?
Yep. So Mitchell Ness was purchased by Fanatics Commerce, the sort of core company. So they're not, we have no direct relationship or management of them. And I don't know what the immediate plans are. Fanatics Commerce is, that's, Michael Rubin and that team. But I will say that on a personal level, I'm close with Don C., who is an investor in StockX and a friend, and has done probably more collaborations with Mitchell Ness than anyone, and really bridge the gap between trying to create, make jerseys and everything part of culture again. And when you look at the sort of high level goal of making trading cards truly part of culture, I think that there's a real interesting opportunity with Mitchell and Ness, with Don, with that. So I think there's something there, but there's no immediate plans because it's separate.
Fair, yeah. If it's not even part of because you work for Fanatics Collectibles, not
right.
the bigger, not the parent. Okay,
that's right.
Good to know. Chris from Card Ladder says you don't need to worry about keeping kids in the hobby. They're already outbidding you on your favorite grails. Is there truth to that?
Sure. It's actually one of the more interesting things when you go to card shows these days and see, some of these 12-year-old kids sitting there and negotiating with grown men, and, they know exactly what they're doing. And, it's pretty awesome. It's great.
And then I just see, he says, we need less kids in the hobby, but he's obviously kidding about that. You are right, Chris. Of course you are.
Because by the way, they're fearless, and, they're going up there and look, they got the card. What are you going to do? You want to buy the card from them? You gotta negotiate with them. So
yeah,
it's good.
What do here's, maybe we can end with this question, and I got to take my eyes off the comments because they're coming fast and furious, but I hear a lot of narrative about, people are feeling like today's hobby is starting to feel like it was in the early 90s, the junk wax era, as it's commonly referred to. In your position now, and just your thoughts on the hobby up until today, the last couple of years, really, what are your thoughts on that? Are we heading, are there any key differences, key similarities that you feel you can answer this question and say, no, we are not in another 90s junk wax era? Or do you feel that we there are some similarities that we could potentially be there?
Yeah, this is a very important topic. So much so that, I wrote 53 pages on it. There's a lot of differences, and we really aren't anywhere near the same risk of what happened before. First of all, the fundamental reason we got to that place back in the 90s was there was no transparency, like none. Like, this is all pre-internet. So everybody thought they were the only ones that had 12 Griffey 89 upper decks, but we all had 12 upper decks, but we didn't know that all you had was visibility into what the Beckett price guide said and what your local hobby shop said. We didn't have the internet, let alone all the data and technology to understand and understand transparency of supply and who has what and where and what it sells for. So that alone is night and day. But also back then, we didn't have the it was all base cards, right? The reason it was junk is because by definition, you knew exactly what you were going to get in that box, and none of those cards were valuable, and there was no possibility of pulling a rare or valuable card out of it. So, and obviously that's not the case now. I do think, though, that it's important that all the manufacturers, not just the ones that we work with, take a really deep look at how we continue to iterate and make cards that have long-term value. And we're at the point where everyone in the hobby, particularly Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, have made a lot of money in the past couple of years, that now's the time to err on the side of the products having long-term value as opposed to short-term profits for those companies. And sometimes that means that you make less, and you could have sold more, but you make less anyway. And those are the sort of things that I want to make sure that we think about at Fanatics Collectibles as we make them, because, you get it, right? It's super important to keep that in mind. And the only way to grow the hobby is that the people that come in and buy cards, if they like if they lose money, if they continue to lose money, they open boxes and it's not worth anything, they're going to go away, and the whole thing goes away. So
yeah. You know, when we have meetings for TradeSafe, one of the things that I'm very sort of aggressive with the team is that, you know, I always say, and they buy in, but I say, if we put the hobby first, if we always think hobby first,
yes,
we will be successful. Are you thinking that way too?
1000%. It's like everything that we've talked about. It's about growth. It's about the people that come in. It's about that customer experience. And one of the many reasons of why I couldn't be happier and more appreciative of the relationship with Michael Rubin and Fanatics and to do this is that's how they view it. That's how they've always viewed, you know, Fanatics it's about the fan. It's about what does that person want, and how to do that. So yeah, that's the driving force for all of this.
Awesome. Okay, man, listen, we're going to end it there. I'm going to thank you very much for joining.
Yep.
Appreciate your time. I think we covered a lot of topics here in about an hour and a half. So
Yeah.
I'm going to end it, Josh. Hang tight though. Stay backstage. Give me 2 more minutes of your
Sure.
time. Everybody else who's watching, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for all the great
Thank you.
contributions to the chat. This coming Saturday, Chris and Josh from Card Ladder are joining me. That's it. We're going to end it right there. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you on Saturday. Have a good rest of the week. And again, thank you to Josh. Josh, hang tight.
Thank you very much.